Archaeology reveals proof behind Bible. Archaeologists have uncovered remarkable evidence along Israel's Mediterranean coast that powerfully connects the world of ancient Rome with the events described in the Bible. The ancient city of Caesarea Maritima, located about 28 miles north of present-day Tel Aviv, is increasingly recognized as one of the most important archaeological sites for understanding early Christianity and Roman governance in Judea. It's time to unpack this story in depth right here on the AI podcast.
When you get deep into ancient history, you realize how much of it relies on stories, really powerful narratives.
Absolutely.
But when those stories are also foundational religious texts, the search for physical evidence for something you can actually touch, it becomes almost, well, desperate.
It really does. It can feel like you're trying to catch smoke. And yet, every now and then, you find these extraordinary places, these geographical anchors, where faith, imperial power, and world-class engineering all just collide.
Yeah, Caesarea Maritima is one of the big ones.
For historians, archaeologists, and believers, it's one of the most important sites, period.
Okay, so let's get into it. For this deep dive, our sources are a mix of everything excavation reports, historical analyses, and of course, the Book of Acts. Our mission is to figure out why. Why is this magnificent coastal city built by Herod the Great such a powerful link between the Bible and, verifiable history?
Precisely. We're not just looking at a pile of Roman ruins here. This was a city designed from the ground up to be an administrative and architectural marvel.
So we need to look at the engineering.
Right, the engineering, its role in the story of Peter and Paul, and then the big one, the single archaeological find that really grounded a controversial biblical figure in solid history, the Pilate Stone.
So let's set the scene for you. We're on the Mediterranean coast, about, 28 miles north of modern Tel Aviv?
That's right. And you have to understand, this was not a natural harbor, not at all.
That's the whole point, isn't it? Caesarea Maritima on the sea.
Exactly. It was an exposed, sandy coastline. Herod didn't just pick a convenient spot. He built this city, this whole metropolis, from scratch between 22 and 10 BC.
And he did it for one reason.
Well, primarily to show his complete unapologetic loyalty to Rome, specifically to the Emperor Augustus.
Okay, but building a city to rival Alexandria, that feels like more than just loyalty. Was this devotion, or was this Herod flexing his own power, showing that he could play on an imperial scale?
It's a very complex mix of both. Herod was brilliant, and he knew his power depended on being indispensable to Rome by creating this massive cosmopolitan and pointedly non-Jewish port city. He was opening up a gateway for Roman trade and military power that completely bypassed the more traditional Jewish centers.
So it's a huge political statement.
A massive one. And the architecture, the sheer scale of it, screams that ambition.
Let's talk about that. The harbor, Sebastos. It was an engineering feat, right?
Oh, astounding. The sources describe these immense submerged breakwaters. They basically created a calm, artificial basin where none existed before. And to do that, they needed something revolutionary.
Hydraulic concrete.
That's the key. The Romans had perfected this mix using volcanic ash pozzolana that had this incredible property of hardening under seawater.
Which is just mind-blowing for the time.
It is. Herod's engineers would pour these massive concrete blocks and sink them in 40 feet of water to form the seawalls. The harbor was huge. We're talking big enough for legions of Roman warships, merchant vessels, the works. It even had a lighthouse and colossal statues of the emperor. It was art and technology fused together.
And that spectacle continued on land. What can you still see there today?
You see the complete skeleton of a major Roman city. Sprawling aqueducts that brought fresh water from mountains miles away, a huge Roman theater.
Which they still use, right?
They do. And maybe the most impressive thing, just for sheer scale, is the Hippodrome.
We might call it a stadium, but Hippodrome really gives it the right gravitas.
It does. A massive U-shaped track for chariot races. It could hold tens of thousands of spectators. These weren't just buildings. They were instruments for importing Roman culture, Roman entertainment, Roman power right onto the coast of Judea.
It creates such a strange picture of Herod, though, the brilliant builder of this Roman marvel, and also the tyrant the Bible remembers for the massacre of the innocents.
And that tension is absolutely crucial. He was a megalomaniac, a paranoid ruler, and a master builder. His actions, both the construction and the atrocities, they define the brutal imperial world that Christianity was born into.
So Caesarea wasn't just a shiny port, it was the absolute seat of Roman power in the region.
Which is exactly why it's so central to the New Testament. It was the administrative capital. It's where the Roman governor, the prefect, lived and worked. So it naturally becomes the stage for major events in the book of Acts.
Right. Two of the most consequential moments in early Christianity happen right here. Let's start with the Apostle Peter and the Roman centurion Cornelius.
This is a massive turning point. The sources describe Peter being called to Cornelius' house in Caesarea. And when Peter baptizes him and his household, who were Gentiles, not Jews, it fundamentally changes the direction of the new faith.
It's the moment it breaks out of its Jewish origins.
It's the signal that Christianity is going to become a global religion, open to the entire Gentile world.
And if that set the theological stage, the next event really cements Caesarea's role as the legal stage. I'm talking about the imprisonment of the Apostle Paul.
Paul's brought here after he's arrested in Jerusalem, and the sources are very specific. He was imprisoned in the city for 2 years. He stood trial before Roman officials like the governor Festus.
So when we look at the ruins of the governor's palace today, the Praetorium,
We are looking at the exact structural setting described in the book of Acts. The administrative center, the barracks, the court, it's all there.
you can almost see Paul standing on that mosaic floor making his appeal to Caesar.
It just grounds the whole story in this tangible political reality. It makes the New Testament feel less like just a religious text and more like a historical document that's describing real events in real places of power.
And that idea of grounding the story in reality brings us to maybe the most significant find of all. We have to talk about the man who ordered the crucifixion of Jesus, Pontius Pilate.
It's amazing to think about, really. Before this discovery we're about to discuss, Pilate was known almost exclusively from the Gospels.
There were a few brief mentions by historians Josephus and Tacitus.
Right, but if you were a skeptic, you could easily argue he was just a literary invention. There was no physical archaeological proof.
No inscriptions, no statues, nothing with his name on it.
Which, for a Roman governor, is incredibly strange. They loved putting their names on buildings. It was a huge hole in the historical record.
Until June 1961, archaeologists are digging in the Roman theater.
Herod's Theater, yes. And they unearthed this small, carved limestone block. It had been repurposed, actually, used as a step in a later renovation.
So it was just sitting there in plain sight.
Essentially. The inscription was damaged, but what was left was a shockwave.
It confirmed his name, his title, and the time frame, right? It dates to between 26 and 36 AD, which is a perfect fit.
Perfect fit.
Okay, so what does the surviving part of that inscription actually say?
The text is a dedication. It reads, "To the divine Augusti Tiberium,
Pontius Pilate, prefect of Judea, has dedicated this.
prefect of Judea." That title is the absolute key. It was the first direct, irrefutable archaeological proof that Pontius Pilate was a real historical governor based right there in Caesarea.
And it confirms his title as prefect specifically.
Yes, not procurator, which was a title used later, so it ties him directly to the administrative structure of that exact time. The history was happening precisely where the narrative said it was.
It's just incredible. And while the original stone is in the Israel Museum now, you can go to Caesarea today and see a replica right where it was found.
It's a powerful symbol. But the city's story didn't end there. Caesarea continued to grow, and it became this really vibrant intellectual center for the early Christian community.
And we have archaeological proof of that community, too.
We do. Beyond the big Roman structures, we found things like ancient mosaics and inscriptions that quote directly from the New Testament, specifically from Paul's letters.
There's one mosaic in particular, believed to be from the 2nd century AD. It's one of the earliest examples of New Testament text in an archaeological find.
It is. It's a quote from Romans 13.3, a piece of instruction on civil duty. It says, "Do you want to have no fear of authority? Do what is good, and you will have praise from the same."
Wow. So it shows a community that's not just, surviving in the Roman system, but actively engaging with Christian texts about how to live inside that system.
Exactly. And the city became much more than just a home for believers. It became an academic powerhouse.
Because of the theologian Origen.
In the 3rd century, Origen, who was arguably the most important Christian scholar of his age, set up a major library and school right here in Caesarea.
And his great work there was the Hexapla. We can't just gloss over that. Why was it so revolutionary?
It was basically textual criticism before the field even existed. The Hexapla, meaning sixfold, was this massive comparative edition of the Old Testament. Origen laid out 6 different versions side by side in parallel columns.
So the original Hebrew, different Greek translations?
All there. It was the ultimate study tool, allowing scholars to compare different readings and get closer to the original texts. It was a rigorous academic project that cemented Caesarea as the center for Christian learning in the Eastern Empire.
A Roman marvel an apostolic stage, and an academic sanctuary. So what brought it all to an end?
Well, like so many ancient cities, its end was violent. After centuries of changing hands, the city was systematically destroyed by Muslim forces in 1265 during the late Crusades.
The very thing that made it important, its strategic location, made it a target.
Exactly. The great port and the city were left to decay. The sand just took it back. And it lay dormant for centuries, a lost city.
Until the 1950s, when excavations really began in earnest.
And they've basically continued ever since. Every decade reveals a new layer. The aqueducts, the palace, the theater, all of it just waiting there, pretty much untouched since the 13th century.
So when you pull it all together today, the takeaways are just immense. You have Herod's ambition made real with Roman concrete. You have the verifiable setting for Peter and Paul's activities and acts.
And you have the Pilate Stone. Tangible, physical proof of a central biblical figure that history almost lost.
Caesarea Maritima is now one of the largest archaeological parks in Israel. It's this powerful symbol for historians and believers alike.
It really is. It's a place where you can physically walk through the architecture of a global empire and at the same time stand in the exact setting where a global religion first took root.
And that's the core of it, isn't it? That intertwining. So here's the thought to leave you with. What does the physical confirmation of figures like Pontius Pilate, combined with this massive Roman infrastructure you can still see today, reveal about the complex, tangled relationship between imperial history and the origins of our Western religious narratives?
It's a living, breathing bridge between faith and history.
Okay, one question for you. How does the discovery of Caesarea Maritima reshape our understanding of Roman era Judea? Don't forget to comment it. Thanks.